Thank you guys for tuning in to the Bootz Sports Show. I'm your host, Uncle Bootz, and today we'll talk a little bit about the Hall of Fame, my opinions on Bill Parcells and Larry Allen, and the 24-20 victory, the Cowboys over the Miami Dolphins. I know it's preseason, but we were still able to watch some things, see some players, see some of the draft class, how they performed, and including Mike Mayock's third-round pick, Travis Frederick. We'll get a chance to see if he looked like a third-round pick and talk about that. Hopefully you guys were able to watch the game. I watched it several times already. Also, that preseason package at the NFL.com, they have the preseason package where you can watch the games over and you can watch the condensed version without the commercials. So I got a chance to watch it a few times already. You know, most of us were concerned about our offensive line. So we'll talk about how they performed. But first I wanted to talk about the Hall of Fame real quick. And before we do that, I just want to first give a shout out to yourdailycowboysfootballfix.com. You can also watch this video in its entirety amongst other videos there on the site, and read a host of other Cowboy articles, which a great job is done on that website with giving us Cowboy information. Going on with the Hall of Fame, you know, I often feel like the Hall of Fame should be a smaller, it shouldn't be a lot of people that get into the Hall of Fame. I feel like sometimes that, you know, so many players are fringe Hall of Famers that get in, and, you know, you almost feel like you're letting everybody in. And my reasons are, you know, Curtis Martin, great running back. Emmitt Smith, great running back. You know, Jerome Bettis, a very good running back. But when you have Emmitt in the Hall of Fame and Barry Sanders in the Hall of Fame, and no disrespect to Jerome Bettis, he was a great football player, but he was by no means as good as Emmitt Smith. I mean, and so I started talking about this with my buddies yesterday, and I'm not going to say that he shouldn't be a Hall of Famer, but he shouldn't have, I believe they should break the Hall of Fame up into categories. And like there should be Category 1, Cat 2, Cat 3, and then Emmitt would be a Cat 1 Hall of Famer, and Jerome Bettis would be a Category 3 Hall of Famer. Randy Moss is a Hall of Fame wide receiver, you know, and to me, Terrell Owens, they are Hall of Fame wide receivers. But they were more dynamic players than a lot of wide receivers that are in the Hall of Fame, and I think they should be segregated by that Category 1, Category 2, Category 3. And that brings me to Larry Allen. That's the reason why I say this, is because Larry Allen was he was a Paul Bunyan-esque type player, and he was the type of player that when you tell stories about him and people talk about him, you start to sound like an old grandfather. You know that story, your grandfather's telling you stuff about how things used to be, and you're like, yeah, right, Grandpa. You know, that kind of, when you hear the stories about Larry Allen and his strength and his speed and how he dominated people, it starts to sound like you're getting carried away a little bit when you talk about him, but that's exactly the type of player he was. And I put him in that Category 1 you know, or a category rather, in the Hall of Fame, because I don't feel that there was another guard in the league that did what he did day in, day out, and demonstrated. And the benefits were Emmitt Smith's rushing, the rushing titles, and him being the all-time leading rusher in NFL history, running behind Larry Allen. I mean, there has never been a more dominating player, play in, play out, than Larry Allen. You never saw plays where he constantly got beat. He was just having a hard. I mean, this guy was the best at his position, and you know, for him to make it, you know, at both guard positions, make the Pro Bowl at both guards and the tackle position, 3 different positions. You know, that's amazing. That's really, really amazing. So for Larry Allen, I think that he should be in a class by himself, and it was good to see him get in, and obviously there was no doubt about him getting in. But we also had Bill Parcells. I know he's not going to go in as a Cowboy, but Bill Parcells was the reason that I started listening to the coach press conferences. Like, I haven't, since Bill Parcells became the coach of the Cowboys, I have never missed a Dallas Cowboys coach press conference, no matter what it is or who it was, whether it was Wade, Jason. Like, I've never missed a press conference. And Bill, you could always get a nugget or a good piece of information about players on the team, the opposition. He always left you something, and he was so clever about the way that he disseminated that information to you. And that's what I appreciated about Bill. He was very, very clever. And you would think he had these lines written down, the things that he would say. You know, they were so great about how he talked about certain players on the team and their approach to the game and how their approach needed to be. And talking about Bill Parcells, because he took the Cowboys over after we had 3-5-11 seasons, and some of these newer or younger Cowboy fans don't appreciate, you know, Tony Romo and these Dallas Cowboys, some of these players, because when Bill took over, you know, the Cowboys had no quarterback on the roster that they thought could go out and win football games. I mean, I believe they were really flipping coins over Chad Hutchinson and Quincy Carter, who was going to start. You know, well, Quincy gives you a little bit better mobility, but Chad Hutchinson has a little stronger arm. I think that, and they were talking about two guys that really didn't have the talent or the commitment level to win a Super Bowl or to win playoff games, which neither did. Bill came in right away and instantly changed the culture of the team. Instantly came in and we became a playoff team right away under Bill Parcells. And we were a playoff team multiple times under Bill Parcells. And the attitude changed, and a lot of it was with the same cast of bad players. And luckily for Bill, we stumbled upon the kid Tony Romo that we have now, that we still have hope that we can win, no matter what the negative Cowboy fan says or the other fan says. The Cowboys still have a chance to win because of Tony Romo. And Bill gave us him, gave us DeMarcus Ware. Whether you want to thank Jerry Jones, you know about the storied argument. Bill wanted Sean Merriman, Jerry Jones wanted Ware. Whatever happened, it happened under Bill's watch. So we got the Jay Ratliffs. I believe Jason Hatcher as well was a Bill Parcells draft pick. We got some really good players that we, Jason Witten, that we count on today to win games on Sunday. Today, Jason Witten, Jeremiah Ratliff, you know, Tony Romo, these guys we expect to win, and these are the gems that Bill left for this franchise. So Bill did a really good job in Dallas. I know it didn't end the way we or he wanted it to end, but Bill really, really made his contributions, and I believe a lot. Jerry Jones learned a lot. They may have learned a lot about themselves, Bill and Jerry, but I believe Jerry Jones learned a lot about maybe him stepping away and not meddling as much because of Bill. Jerry's always going to have his hands on the goods, you know that, but I think that Bill taught Jerry some valuable lessons. I think Jerry would agree to that. So both of those guys, amongst all of the Warren Sapps, all the players were rightfully so. Chris Carter, these guys were Hall of Fame players. You know, I remember that era not as a little kid, but as a guy who understood football and seeing the players. We were blessed to be able to watch these players. If you're a huge football fan like me, so kudos to those guys. But moving on to the Hall of Fame game, like I said, I know it's a preseason game. But my eyes were on, like most people who understand the game and understand this team, your eyes are on the offensive and defensive lines. That was where I needed to come away seeing. We were one of the worst rushing. We were the, I think, 31st team in the league last year running the football. 31st in the league. So I wanted to see what impact Bill Callahan, his approach to attacking, running the football, what kind of guys we'd have out there, and I got a chance to see it, and I was very impressed. First of all, I was impressed because I was primarily looking at number 70, Travis Frederick, looking at him to see how dominant, because the film that I watched on him at Wisconsin, he was a dominant mauler. And if you go back and look at my videos after we acquired Travis Frederick and I did the film study, I said if his game in college translates to the field in the NFL, because he was a dominant mauler. He was a mauler in college. I saw those traits again show up against the Miami Dolphins. And in the early part of that first quarter, Paul Soliai, Vaughn Martin, these guys were very good NFL caliber defensive players out there. They're very, very good players. I think Soliai signed a big contract with the team this year. So those guys are some powerful players for the Miami Dolphin defense. And Travis Frederick did a very, very good job getting to the second level on a couple of plays. Also combo blocking, coming in here, blocking the interior, and then seeing a guy release and getting a hand out there and blocking. Did a fantastic job. And I think a lot of guys that we're talking, like your Mike Mayock's, because we took a lot of heat for not taking the defensive tackle from Florida and trading down. I think they outsmarted just about everybody in football with the Travis Frederick pick. So far, it's still got to show up on Sundays. I understand all that, but if the kid went out there and they were dominating this kid and throwing him around like a rag doll, the headline would be Jerry's first round pick is a bust already. So that kid went out there and held his own, and the offensive line, let me tell you, they looked like we might see something. And I like Frederick's versatility. He's definitely a center, but I like his versatility at guard too, because you don't know what the injuries, where this kid's gonna have to play. I saw right away once Phil Costa got in there, it looked like It looked like the organization really did they did their homework with this pick, because Phil Costa is gonna allow guys to be pushed directly into Tony Romo, and this Travis Frederick kid, he was so stable in there. Also to the left of him, you had to like seeing Ron Leary, and Ron Leary, who's a massive. I know a lot of you guys, if you're not Cowboy fans, might not know who this guy is. He's a guy who played at Memphis, played tackle at Memphis, and was a free agent. And even for the guys who are Cowboy fans that might not know his story, has a terrible degenerative knee condition, and the guy had a third round grade. Some people said fifth round, as high as a third round grade in the draft. But he was a what they call a medical red flag, where a lot of teams took him off of their draft board because they knew he wouldn't play 5 years in the league possibly. Like the Jeremiah what was his name, Jeremiah Trotter for the Eagles out of Stephen F. Austin. He played with a degenerative knee condition where guys said he might play 1 season, or he might play 5 seasons, might play 10 seasons, but his knee was so bad that teams just passed over him because he couldn't be relied on to make plays. No one knew how long his knee was going to last. And he ended up playing a long time. I think he played at least 10 or 11 years in the league minimum. He played a while and played at a high level. But Ron Leary has a very similar condition. So it's only a matter of time before his knee goes. They just don't know when that time is. So a lot of teams didn't invest in that draft pick. Jerry Jones ran after the draft. He was one of the first players they ran to, the Cowboys organization, and threw him more money than anybody else offered him, because they thought within a year or two he could come in and challenge for a starting guard position. And that kid did. And he was just as impactful as Frederick, and that's adding a lot of mass out there on that field. Those are two big guys, and you put to the left of him, you got number 77 Tyron Smith. That left side of that line would be a very, very powerful side of the line. So 2 tight end sets. Now you're throwing another tight end, possibly 2 tight ends over there lining up. That could be a really good, powerful side. They did a really good job. So we were able to run the football for over 170, almost 180 yards against the Dolphins. Like I said, I know it's preseason, but when you haven't seen your team run the ball effectively, now listen, if DeMarco Murray was out there, the way those guys were blocking, we'd have ran for over 200 yards with Murray out there, because he's a quicker, even though Dunbar is probably a jittery back, Murray hits the hole better and with more reckless abandon than the other backs. But Lance Dunbar looked great. Looked like he could be that Felix Jones type guy. I mean, you saw a lot of running back catches out the backfield with these guys. Philip Tanner, I wrote these guys off, man. I really did. I wrote Tanner off. I didn't think there was any way Philip Tanner could make this football team. Now the Dallas Cowboys might just have to keep 4 running backs because they looked outstanding. They looked like they could be counted upon. Granted, Philip Tanner is in better shape. And I got to give props to one of my buddies who's been in my ear about these two guys, at Mosberg. If you follow on Twitter, Mozzberg. Dwayne Green's been in my ear about these guys, that we shouldn't give up on them yet, and they might make the team. So I got to give him a shout out because they really looked fantastic. Dunbar and Tanner. It's a preseason game. I'm well aware of that, but you still got to be out there earning your job. If he went out and fumbled 3 times, everybody would be saying get rid of him. So the guy went out and produced. The whole draft class, I thought, minus Terrence Williams, the wide receiver from Baylor, had a concussion a couple days before. I would have loved to have seen him out there. He's definitely going to be better than Dwayne Harris and Nicole Beasley. By the way, I didn't think the quarterbacks helped them much. I think with Romo out there, it'd have been a little bit different. But Beasley had a couple passes where I thought he should have caught. Dwayne Harris, these guys aren't long enough where you can just throw the ball near them and they can suck these balls up. You don't have Miles Austin, you don't have Dez out there. You'll probably see that Friday against the Raiders, a little bit more of the ones out there, and then you'll really, really be ecstatic with what you're seeing from our offense. But I thought Gavin Escobar had an appearance. J.J. Wilcox, these guys showed up on film. I mean, and they jumped out too. A lot of these guys jumped out. I mean, Escobar is an imposing figure out there. He's probably gonna still need to work on his size and strength at the point of attack blocking, because he's just not that right now. And I'm not gonna say he's a liability, but he's definitely not gonna drive anybody and sustain his block. People get off his block and get to the running back pretty quickly, so that's something they're gonna have to work on. I think you'll see more James Hanna in those situations because he's a little bit bigger, a little bit more stout. Joseph Randle, running back from Oklahoma State, we drafted in the 5th round. Look like a player, man, and it doesn't shock me because I thought he was a very good back coming out of college. I really did, but he looked like he can be a contributor to this team. Injuries are gonna show up. Guys are gonna get hurt. Guys are gonna get hurt through the preseason. So let alone the regular season, guys are gonna be hurt. Guys are gonna miss time. Nate Livings, he might not even come back. I think they should. I know we got some depth issues on the offensive line. I think they should think about injury settling that guy. I mean, he's not a great player when he's out there, and he's not out there. So, you got to have a guy like Mackenzie Bernardo come back. He'll rescue Dave Arkin, who I felt like was okay. He's one of those guys like Phil Costa that most times are going to get in the way of the run that make a difference in the run game. What you saw, I saw Travis Frederick sealing the defense so that he's creating the wall so the running back can run behind his back, and that's what you want to see, is that seal. Anytime you run the football, because that's the wall, it creates a wall, and you don't get that with Arkin. You don't get the second level block with Arkin, but he did a decent job, enough to where he's not a liability. Last year he looked like a liability. I remember that Oakland Raiders game. He damn near got Jason Witten killed. I felt like he was just getting dominated. And he doesn't look like that player this year. So, granted, he was playing out of position too. So, let's do that. Let's put that out there. But the draft class, you have to be pretty ecstatic about. You have to be ecstatic about this class. I mean, this is their first time under the lights. First time in game uniform going out there, and they looked their part. Wilcox was a little late on a couple plays, but his presence was felt. And I saw Matt Johnson, a rookie from last year, who kind of is our redshirt rookie this year, if you will. He showed up out there. I liked his. Now he's been an injury liability, and got injured again, of course, yesterday. But I saw his impact out there. He showed up. He showed up out there, made some hits, some pretty good hits. Let the offense know that I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna be out here. If you're gonna catch the ball, you better focus and concentrate like they're teaching you, because I'm gonna jar it loose and I'm gonna be here. Wilcox brought that presence a little bit too. So, and I saw Guy Heath out there. I wasn't familiar with him. They got some guys that can thump. They got some guys that can thump, and they need that. Now, you didn't see the corners. You didn't see Ware and Spencer. You didn't see these guys out there. So you're gonna see a lot more pressure than you saw. But you did see George Selvey. And this kid was supposed to be a great player out of college, and for some reason, I don't know what the reason is, but he just never materialized into that player. But if he's a late bloomer, and what I saw yesterday, he dominated. I believe it was Dallas Thomas, and I'm a Tennessee Vols fan. I believe that was the guard, the highly coveted guard in the draft, by the way, for Tennessee last year. And don't kill me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's who he was. They slid him outside the tackle. I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna kill Dallas Thomas, and I'm not gonna just raise up Selvey because he was going against a guy, to me, who was playing out of position. If that's the same kid, which I believe it is, that kid was supposed to be a guard, slid outside the tackle, But when you don't bring Long back outside, Jake Long, to play there, and you let him go off in free agency, then that's what you're forced to do in spots like this. But at any rate, George Selvey took advantage of that opportunity and looked like a powerful player. And I heard Broadus, who was here with Greg Ellis and here with Parcells. Brian Broadus for those of you who don't know, is a Dallas Cowboy beat writer, aka former scout for the Dallas Cowboys and the Green Bay Packers, etc. And does a real good job on DallasCowboys.com. He had mentioned that he's also wearing 98, George Selvey, and he looks like Greg Ellis. And he looked like him on the field. Like, he really did. Like, the way he's built, his structure, his kind of wiry legs, but kind of, upper body. He looked like him in play. And, I'm not going to say the guy's going to be a Pro Bowl player and all that stuff like that, but he definitely looks like he can make this team. And with the lack of players that we have at defensive end, barring injury, there's no reason why this guy shouldn't be able to come in and contribute. I liked what I saw from Kyle Wilber, too. I saw him out there. Kyle Wilber, number 51, went out there and made plays. Went out there and made himself relevant. And that's what you want to see out here. You want guys that are going to, like, for instance, Cameron Wake was out there, and he's one of the best pass rushers in the National Football League. Cameron Wake was out there for the Miami Dolphins, and I just didn't see him make his presence felt on either side, whether he was on the left side or the right side. I just didn't see him out there. I believe he played a lineup against Tyron Smith. So that was a good sign for Tyron, because Cameron Wake is a damn good pass rusher. So offensive line seems to be coming together. We didn't see a lot of passing yards. Quarterbacks, I mean, you're putting out there Kyle Orton, who hit a nice play down the seam to Dante Rosario, another tight end who I think we're going to keep 4 tight ends minimum. He'll make the team. We look like we got some potential out there early. Defensively, we got some things to clean up. The cover 2 defense. The cover 2 always seems, or the Tampa 2, I should say, always seems to be kind of generous with the run. When they ran it in Indy, they couldn't stop the run for anything. But it kind of seems like it can do enough where it can funnel the offense and allow you to force them to kick field goals, which the Cowboys did. Force them to kick field goals. Force them 4 and outs. I mean, you talk about turnovers. This team is supposed to be a turnover, an opportunistic team as far as turnovers with Rob Marinelli and Monty Kiffin. Well, they got turnovers, and I know a couple of them were unforced, but they were turnovers. Whether it was a fumble or whether it was a 4th down play, I count that as a turnover. If it's 4th down and you don't get it and we get the ball back, I think we had 2 of those, that's a turnover. And we had an interception return for a touchdown. Devontae Holloman, talk about your draft class. I mean, rookies, man. Making plays when given the opportunity. I saw guys around the football, touching the football. That's what you want to see, and that's what Marinelli and Kiffin promised you we would get with this group. We're starting to see it. So these are the kind of things you can build on. Points, interceptions, returns for touchdowns. I mean, these are things that this team has lacked for years, and you're seeing it from guys that aren't really going to be counted upon to make plays early. So I can't wait to see the Sean Lee's, Bruce Carters, and Justin Durant's and DeMarcus Ware's. I can't wait to see those guys out there. Maybe Ratliff sprinkled in too. So, but everything wasn't all roses. Everything wasn't all great. We'll get into some of that now. I think that the main thing that was bothering me a little bit was the penalties. I mean, I saw in the blue-white scrimmage, I saw the penalties there. I saw the penalties in the preseason game yesterday, and I just feel like this is something this team has to, and coaching staff have to rid themselves of. They gotta find a way to not go off sides. I mean, these are controllable pre-snap penalties. Dallas has to control this. So Matt Johnson, injury, not good. Didn't like that. Also didn't like, we had some up-and-coming receivers. Eric Rodgers. We thought in camp these guys were making plays. I saw him out there, got open on looked like a fade route, and it just seemed like he just didn't bring down the same catch that he was bringing down in camp, went right through his hands. I thought the guy would make that play, and that would, because he's going to be competing. These Eric Rodgers, these wide receivers, undrafted guys, they're going to be competing with the Danny Coles of the world, because Danny Cole still hasn't been out there. He's a draft pick from last year, 5th round pick, who just hasn't been able to get on the field. So guys like Eric Rodgers, guys like Tim Benford, these guys are going to have to get out there and try to steal that 5th or 6th roster spot away from some of these guys. Quarterback passing was awful, and the worst thing, they're going to have to improve the tackling. Now, I know a lot of these guys that played are young, but the tackling's got to be better. There were a lot of broken tackles. There were some long runs, some tackles that were missed in the hole that could have avoided big plays. They're going to have to work on that. But all in all, your expectations have to be up with this team because you saw us go out and dominate with the depth players. These are depth players. A lot of these guys that you saw out there are depth players. Nick Hayden, another guy who went out and was just penetrating the backfield nonstop. I saw the kid Pendleton out there making plays. I mean, these are depth guys that are going to probably make it to this roster and contribute this year. So before we make a big deal out of it, just wanted to give you guys a little taste on what I saw, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Once again, kudos to Bill Parcells, Larry Allen. Definitely follow me on Twitter, Jerry_Holman, at Jerry_Holman, and any questions, comments you guys have, fill up the comment section, talk about it. We got the Oakland Raiders coming up, so the Cowboys will fly back to Oxnard and then head to Oakland, and hopefully we'll see more of the ones. I think Tony Romo already put out there that he will be out there in the preseason game with Oakland. Also, I think you'll see Dez and Miles, so you'll start to see what looks like real Dallas Cowboy football. DeMarco Murray. Yes, I'm excited. I'm pumped. You should be too. We talked about that window. The Cowboys organization talked about that window. That window is not closed. It might not be open. I don't know what it is. It might not be wide open, but there still is hope that this team can get it together. They've done everything that they needed to do. Jerry Jones and company, they got rid of a lot of the coaches, brought in new structure, brought in a new scheme. They juggled the play calling around. So far, guys, this seems to have worked so far. Because last year's preseason, I wasn't seeing this. I wasn't seeing the same things that I'm seeing now, and so you got to be excited with the changes that the Cowboys have made. The last thing that I will say is, if this team wants to go out and be something, be somebody, they're going to have to embrace every single thing that happened today and make changes. Next year, next game, I want to see improvement. I want to see opening drive touchdowns. That was one of the other things that I would put into that negative. We went out there and didn't get an opening drive touchdown. I want to see that. That's what we've lacked for the last few years. Even in the preseason. You guys that don't believe preseason means something, I believe it tells a lot. Maybe not the score, But I believe you can tell if your player's getting dominated like Dave Arkin did last year in the preseason, then he's going to get dominated in game. You know, if guys are fumbling the ball, not scoring, the Cowboys failed to score on opening drives in the preseason last year. It showed up in games. Red zone opportunities. Cowboys last year didn't have good red zone. They didn't capitalize on the red zone opportunities last year in the preseason. Well, ironically, it showed up in the season. So, all you guys that don't believe the preseason means anything, it does. It not the score, but when you see guys out there attacking, dominating, missing tackles, penalties, going off sides, this could be a sign of things if they don't get it cleaned up to come. So, guys, thanks for listening. I appreciate all your support. Definitely subscribe and hit the like button if you like the video. I appreciate it. Any thoughts, any comments, fill up the comment section. I'm out of here.